I was debating what video to bring you guys for this auspicious Hextenacht patch day. Yes, it's Halloween, and it's also the day that this big old patch released. It is a doozer with one of the biggest patches we've ever seen. New unit introduced in Graveguard Halberds. This is actually a battle I fought yesterday on stream, but I figured I would bring it to you guys in more of a casted format so I could get some nice up-close visuals, sort of give a little bit more of an analysis. If you guys want to see me live playing this game, go check out the stream from yesterday. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment below that will just skip you right to the battle because it's at like the end of a 3-hour stream. So, yeah, definitely a fun game here with Giamma, my opponent. He's brought Bretonnia, which is definitely going to be one of the best factions, obviously, for Graveguard with Halberds, right? Stands to reason. The cavalry faction, heavy cavalry faction would be countered somewhat by Halberds. The idea here with this build is we're using them to support and be supported by the Corpse Cart and the Mortis Engine here, Regiment Renowned, Claw Nagash, specifically for a little bit of extra magic resistance and that chilling aura to slow units down. Likewise, we've also got the Banshee here, who's also got Frostbite on her attacks, little -4 leadership banner to try and tear out some Bretonnian stuff if we can. A bunch of zombies with some spears to back them up. We do also have the Stearnsman Regiment of Renown, Graveguard to have a little bit of anti-infantry and just super high melee defense. Great stats overall. Graveguard with Halberds, their stats not amazing, but with Graveguard supporting them definitely offsets that a little bit with an extra 5 attack and defense and vigor refresh. Won't quite keep them at perfect vigor, but it definitely helps, as does that heal. Unholy Lodestone, giving them a little passive heal over time, can be stacked with that of the Mortis Engine. We've got a Blood Dragon Lord here on a dragon. He's been hard landed on the ground to avoid Lewin and the Hippo Knights out in the distance there. Again, just a super strong Lord in general. This synergy with the Helm of Discord is again great for helping those Graveguard with Halberds in key engagements against enemies. So with slows and with the debuffs, they should be able to perform very well given their kind of low stats, but decent weapon strength. 19 bonus versus large is quite a bit. Yeah, and some bats here to act as anti-archer units. They got a little bit of a, what was it, a cost decrease, I think, in the last patch. There was so much, honestly. I can't even remember even having read it through it live yesterday. Lewin for Bretonnia, he's got some Hippogriff Knights and some Peasant Archers, Spearmen at Arms, and a Grail Relic. Plenty of peasant mobs. With some Knights of the Realm, Grail Knights, and Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis. Some nice mix of different knights here. Immediately that fire damage is going to come in, do some extra damage with those flaming arrows to the Claw Nagash. So very expensive piece. I'm forced to kind of pull it back and just YOLO the bats in to try and take out the archers. Meanwhile, Lewin tries to take a dive here. The Banshee is going to stick to him and allow the Blood Dragon to catch up on the ground, start to get some melee engagements going. Definitely going to be very favorable for the Blood Dragon. And of course the follow-up from the Halberds, looking very nice with their Bardiche type glaives. Very cool. With the Corpse Cart, of course, you see the Hippogriff swooping down in the back line, again trying to snipe that Claw Nagash. I'm going to quick pop a heal there with Invocation of the Heck and immediately swing these Graveguard back over to support. Meanwhile, very much overblobbed here on a few melee engagements, so I'm going to try and pull back, like especially the spears, to sort of act as a rear guard so that I'm not potentially getting rear charged by Knights. We'll see if I'm successful in that. Meanwhile, the rest of the Graveguard here fighting with the Banshee will kind of keep the dragon and everything else in the background as Lewin fights in the foreground. Graveguards, Halberds definitely do quite a bit of damage, so against something like Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, who don't have the most amazing stats, they are going to fight quite well here. Oh yeah. It's a unit that Vampire Counts have wanted for a long time. And combined with some of the nerfs to some of the Grail tier units, got their HP. Hippogriff Knights, Grail Knights have less HP overall, but still going to be pretty solid units overall right now. We've got this one peasant still contesting the objective here, kind of helps bail the Hippogriff Knights out as they charge back over to where Lewin is. Once again, Banshee's just trying to stick to Lewin anytime he comes close to him, get a little bit of extra damage and whatnot. But so far, so good. Definitely taking some losses over on the far side. You can see some of my zombies and other kind of low-tier units starting to crumble a little bit. These Grail Knights really haven't found a great charging lane. I mean, I guess they could have gone all the way up and around. Don't necessarily want to go too far from support. But yeah, we'll keep it close now. as we see a regrowth on the hippos as they pull out. I'm going to pop up into the air momentarily with the Blood Dragon, as this is exactly what I want here. The Halberds fighting on top of the Mortis Engine, with the Mortis Engine on top of them, more like. Corpse Cart is over on the far side, supporting another unit of Graveguard Halberds, so although I've split them up right now, they can kind of each independently support a different area, and try and get some value there. Lewin takes another risky dive here with Lion Shield active. It's going to help somewhat against that friendly fire archer damage, but I don't really have any direct spell damage here. We'll overcast Invocation of the Heck for me, try and hit these Halberds, and basically anything else within range, get some bonus healing, and keep this chaff alive as long as possible. But a little Helm of Discord, and the Blood Dragon and the Banshee going to act once again in tandem. Banshee's absolute MVP right now. I think she got a slight leadership buff, like +5 leadership, nothing too crazy, but every little bit helps when you're undead. And Lewin taking a substantial amount of damage in that engagement, trying to pull back and away. Again, way overblobbed here on my part, but now the Knights are coming to try and punish. Got charges from multiple directions landing on the skeletons, on these Graveguard Halberds. Graveguards will definitely get knocked over, but as soon as they stand up and start fighting back, they can hit hard. Like I said, with that decent weapon strength. Banshee here, fighting hippos. Maybe, not actually debuffing their speed too significantly right now, but should see that frostbite kick in momentarily at least. Yeah, the rest over here, Claw of Nagash getting some nice drain damage, and the Graveguard Halberds here get a nice kind of collapse. Mostly just trying to position my infantry in such a way that I can potentially catch Giama's cavalry as they kind of charge in and out. Nice breath attack here lands on the Knights of the Realm. Try and follow up for a quick terror route if I can with the dragon. But Banshee's got to be careful not to get caught out by the Grail Knights in the open field. Definitely need to keep her on top of support units. If she gets surrounded by herself by the Grail Knights, she'll get taken out in a big hurry. But for the time being, the Grail Knights at least kind of getting spread out and thinned out in those Grave Guards. See Lewin taking another engagement with the Red Duke here, or the Blood Dragon even. He was just straight up better than the Red Duke, but that's a discussion for another day. Yeah, Hippogriff Knight's also still kind of grinding here. Plenty of zombies summons left, potentially, for me. I have used a decent amount of magic so far, if I remember right. Yeah, should have at least a few more, like, single-target invocations or zombie summons. But feeling pretty comfortable right now. We've been kind of just slowly able to grind down Giama's army. And despite some decent cycle charging from him, it's definitely been a tough battle, but Bretonnia just kind of slowly losing over time, and the Halberds are definitely a key contributor in this, helping in multiple occasions to protect high-value assets and kind of supporting different engagements here. I'm going to try and push this group over to the objective if I can, make sure I can maintain that capture on it. Bob Nagash is getting close to its healing cap, as is this Corpse Cart, actually, which means both of them have done a decent job of absorbing some damage. Not that you really want the Claw of Nagash absorbing too much damage, given how expensive it is. But Grail Knight's going to stop here momentarily, cap the objective, while Hippos and other units just try and get at whatever they can. Archers, few that remain, I'm just chasing around with whatever infantry kind of spare I have running around. I do have a lot of spare infantry, at least right now, but another crushing charge from multiple directions. You can see I actually countercharged my glaives at the last second, which I probably shouldn't have, but pretty much get flattened initially. But then again, they stand up, they're going to get back up, take another shot at it, start to swing those Bardishes, get some nice thrusts in there, and it'll be solid damage. You can see they managed to hold their leadership, little invocation from the heck to keep them on the field, and the Bretonnian cavalry, at least pulling out that direction, have a hard time getting through them. Decent mass, I think. Basically the same as the regular Grave Guard, but yeah, 90 mass, not incredible. Or, yeah. Sorry, 100 mass on the actual Grave Guards. It's pretty solid, definitely. But now, just moving on to the capture there. Kind of finish off the Rail Relic. Lewin, meanwhile, Again, 2v1, just hasn't been able to disengage from the Banshee at this point, and it's going to get taken out here by the Blood Dragon. That should be game, set, match. Not that this was a match or a set even, just a game, but a fun one at that, and a pleasure to play, pleasure to cast as well. GG to my opponent, Giamma, and definitely a fun one. Yeah, first impressions of Graveguard Halberds, pretty positive overall. This is definitely a build that sort of heavily synergizes and favors them. Again, this matchup, too, is a pretty obvious one. Stuff like the Ogres is another pretty obvious one, right, for Graveguard Halberds. But even a lot of other kind of melee-centric matchups, like a lot of the Monogods, or Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, any faction which you think isn't going to rely on, like, massed archers. Basically, everyone except maybe, like, Elves. I don't know, even Empire is probably going to try and do some different things here. I don't know if the Graveguard Halberds would be particularly useful against them. I don't know, maybe if people are trying to use the newly juiced Demigryph Knights against you, they could be a nice support piece. And even against something like High Elves. I had one game where Giamma whooped me just after this one with High Elves, and, you know, they did okay supporting against something like the Fireborn, who are definitely a problem for the Vampire counts. It's not going to flip that matchup, but I do think between the Grail nerfs and just the addition of the Graveguard Halberds, with some other tweaks to the vampire counts, they're in a much more favorable position against Bretonnia than they were before. I'm not going to call it, you know, this early to be in favor of the vampire counts, but it definitely seems a lot better. Previously, this is a matchup where you could definitely get bullied because your cavalry Blood Knights just can't compare, especially for the costs of Grail Knights, and sort of the whole matchup would unravel from there, more or less. The Halberds, at least, is, like, especially defending these support chariot pieces, has been very effective, at least in this battle. Both Halberds were able to get really good value, pay for themselves, and then some in one case, and also enabled the Mortis engine to get massive value with 2,188 damage gold value, almost 20,000 total damage dealt. Same thing, Blood Dragon Lord, we expect him. He's one of the best lords in the game. 13,000 gold, or sorry, 13,000 damage dealt, 3,600 damage gold value, just absolutely insane. The Banshee also, absolute MVP. I think Banshees are a must-have in most vampire counts builds, to be honest. And they're super cheap, and given how much value they can potentially net you, like here, 2,167 value. A lot of the time, they can be easier to protect. Well, it depends on what you're facing. It's easier to protect often than a multi-model ethereal unit, because like I said, you can kind of hide them in like some infantry and they'll absorb the charge. You do have to worry about other single entities with magic damage trying to snipe them out, but again, that's sort of matchup dependent. This is definitely one where you could see some, but Banshee was able to be very effective in supporting here. The rest of the build kind of just does its vampire count thing and reasonably cost effective all the way around. The bats YOLO in, don't pay for themselves, but shut down the archers long enough for me to develop some other strategies here. So definitely a fun one. On Giamma's side, yeah, Lewin, great performance by him. The peasant cost increase actually is probably fine. A lot of these peasants, even with that extra 25 gold, still pay for themselves. Largely, I mean, you would expect maybe some inflated values all the way across the board for Bretonnia because of the healing that was present in my build, but all these units here, yeah, Hippogriffs pretty much, Grail Knights technically pay for themselves, as do the Peasant Bowmen, even despite everything, one of them almost doubling their damage value output. So despite all that, wasn't quite enough to overcome what I had, and that's definitely goes to show the strength, potentially, of the vampire counts with these new tools. And you know, I kind of, when I saw the Graveguard Halberd stats at first, I admit I wasn't particularly impressed, but, you know, having kind of delved a little bit into the theory crafting side, and now having actually played with them a little bit here, I definitely think they're a solid addition to the Vampire Counts roster. And I even played a little bit of a Vlad campaign, which he now starts with some Graveguard Halberds, and just generally very positive impressions. They seem like a really nice addition, so great to see the Vampire Counts get something after all these years. Hopefully, guys, also enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.